first five that I shared with you. The first one is called commitment. It is so important to keep commitments in our relationships. Sometimes that's kind of difficult, especially when we feel like our partner has offended us in some way. And, we get sometimes into that tit for tat kind of situation. Those are the most important times to keep commitments, to show up as best as we can as the best version of ourselves. And then the second one was intimacy. And I really like the way that Jesse coined it. And I think he learned it from someone else, but it's fine because it works. And that is intimacy, intimacy, really getting to know each other at a deep, deep level and having this way of strengthening the bond. As a matter of fact, all seven of these pillars are designed to strengthen the bond of the relationship and to be sort of a um, assessment tool or a check-in tool to see which one needs repair, because they can be repaired, so that you can continue to move forward in sync together in a solid kind of way in partnership. The third one, forgiveness. Um, it's not only forgiveness, but it's also making amends. Now, you don't have to wait on your partner to make amends to forgive, because forgiveness is about giving up resentment so that you're not carrying that around with you. Excuse me. Um, the fourth pillar, uh, and these are like, we can also think of these as universal principles as well. Um, empathy, being able to look at a situation through the eyes and the experience of the other. And last time we talked about respect and how important that is in our relationship. Excuse me just a second, maybe this will help. Okay, thanks. So this time I'm adding pillar number 6. And pillar number 6 is called integrity. Now, I'm going to share with you my thoughts about integrity by sharing with you the story of a couple. I'm calling them Ivan and Ida. So, Ida and Ivan have been married for about 30 years. They have no children, but they do have fur babies. But the fur babies have really turned into, I don't know what you call uh, dogs when they get to be adult dogs. Um, but that is their family. And even though there's many parts of their marriage that works for them, the parts where they hit rough spots that they weren't able to get through, that is what I want to share with you. So here's their situation. Ivan is a good provider. He works really long hours. And what he has shared with Ida over the years is that since he works so hard, at the end of the day, he's drained and he needs his personal time. So his personal time includes when he comes home to mindlessly look at TV or to go out with his friends. And he likes sports because that's a way to get off steam. And that worked for him individually, but it didn't really work in relationship because Ida loves being around him. And so she wasn't asking for all of his time. She just wanted to have some time with him. So he would make promises to her that, we're going to go out after work. We're going to go on date night. We're going to, we're going to go shopping together, whatever. Well, that was well and good, except that he broke his promises. And he also had excuses for breaking the promises. So Ida, in response, would say to him that she understood, but what she didn't share with him Well, I guess she did share with him times that she really needed time with him too, and she wanted him to figure out a way that they could do that because she understood him, and she loved him, and she wanted him to take care of himself in that way. And so here's the problem: Ida um, did not let Ivan know how important it was for her to spend that time. Now she would say it, but um, she would say in the same sentence, she would say, like, I want to spend the time with you, and I understand that you need time alone. But she did not stand up for herself and really let him know how important it was to her. So he thought it was okay. And he was pretty mindless about it, um, about this. So um, what happened for Ida, because Ivan's going on his merry way, what happened for Ida, resentment started building up. It started simmering and simmering and simmering. And then it got to the point that she exploded. She didn't explode not one time, she exploded several times. And Ivan didn't get it, even though he knew what she was asking for. But since he thought it was okay because she gave a double message, he kept doing what he was doing. There's another part of the story was that sometimes people don't are not aware of what they don't know, or they're just not aware in the moment. And um, what was happening for Ivan was that he was not comfortable being in a relationship with someone who really wanted to be with him. He had spent a lifetime before he met Ida being disappointed in relationships. He was experiencing what Ida is experiencing now. So he really didn't trust that she really wanted to be that close to him. So his armor was making sure that he was involved in activity. And then for Ida, what the replay for her was that before she met Ivan, she had a history of being disappointed in people wanting to be around her. I mean, people that she really loved and cared about, they didn't have time for her. And so, since they continued to go back and forth about what was going on at the surface, something was missing. What do you think that was? They had the arguments, but they didn't have the conversation. They didn't have the awareness about what was important for them to have integrity. Now, when I talk about integrity, I'm talking about emotional um, integrity. They didn't have the tools, they didn't have a process to dig beneath the surface to discover what was really going on, what I just shared with you, what was going on. So they didn't know that in the beginning. And so um, they were stuck. They were stuck. So let's talk a moment about emotional intimacy. What is it? So it's a little bit, did I say emotional intimacy? I meant emotional integrity because they're so close. Emotional integrity is about telling the truth. So when you're having an intimate moment, it's about sharing the truth about not only what you're feeling, because a lot of times when people talk about what it is that they're feeling, they're talking about, they're criticizing the other person about what they didn't do. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about emotional integrity being sharing honestly what your experience is. And it's like the foundation of a heart to heart communication. It's about opening up, again, like in intimacy, opening up without the mask. So all Ida and Evan knew was that they kept getting stuck. But then they got to the point that they wanted something different. They wanted something different. So they made a decision. And we talked about that last time. They made a decision, and then pillar number one, they made a commitment to that decision that they were going to do whatever it took to turn this around because, yes, they loved each other. They were together for such a long time, and they wanted to spend the rest of their lives. They wanted to go into their golden years um, connected, happy, enjoying each other because they deserved it. They wanted it and they deserved it. So, what had to happen for them? See, the problem was they knew what they wanted. They knew that what they were doing was not working. So, what was the next step for them? They had to be aware of the gap, that gap between where they are and where they want to be. And so, so there's like their point A and their point B. So, having the honest conversation, it's like was really scary for both of them. Um, when Ida would invite Evan, Ivan to have the conversation, he was squirming the seat because it was just so comfortable being that open and being that honest with her. And for this wasn't a walk in the park for Ida either, because she was afraid if she really told him what it was like for her, that the times that she felt abandoned, that she couldn't have those special moments or enough of those special moments with him, he would think that she was being childish. And even though logically that doesn't make sense, emotionally that's what she was feeling, and that what um, emotionally that's what she was feeling, and that's how she coped by not telling him the truth. So, what is that first step in closing the gap from where they are to where they want to be? So, it was important for them to understand two things: how their coping skills were not working. So, for Ida, she needed to teach Ivan what her love language was. Now, we all heard about love language. Thank you, Dr. Gary Chapman. Um, he needed to know that her love language was quality time. Now, he was into quality time too, but not quality time with her. His was quality time by himself. So he needed to tune into that. He needed to understand that. She needed to communicate it. He needed to understand it. For Ivan, he needed to understand what we talk about in Imago, and it's called exits. So, what are exits? Exits are behaving or feeling rather than sharing. So, rather than distracting himself with activity, doesn't mean giving up activity. It means it was important for Ivan to be open and honest with Ida about what he was feeling beneath the surface, which was fear. It was fear that if he spent too much time um, with her, number one, he would lose himself, and number two, that it was really uncomfortable. Now, I have met with people and also had a personal experience too. I remember in terms of where Ivan was coming from, only in this part. It's like when things start going really, really, really well, and a person is not accustomed to things going well, unconsciously they will sabotage it because they don't know what to do with it. And I see that coming up over and over again. Couples are working together, they start making changes, they started connecting and feeling closer, and then all of a sudden everything goes downhill. And since what they don't know in the moment is that they're what they're that goodness that they're experiencing is so different from their lifetime experience. They don't know what to do with it. It becomes a threat, and they sabotage it. And so that is what Ivan needed to get in touch with. And as a matter of fact, when the two of them started connecting more, um, Ida was going to need to get in touch with that as well. So, to bridge the gap, Ivan and Ida needed awareness, they needed a tool, and the tool that I'm most accustomed to, that I love the most in working with couples, is dialogue. And they needed a process. So, this is what they did. Um, and they didn't do it on their own because they were aware that they had blind spots. You know, when a person is in survival mode, the only thing that they can think about is coping, and they have blind spots to all the other possibilities. So they so part of their decision, part of their commitment, and part of their process was to have a way to create a conversational environment so that they could be that honest. So they began to do that. And what happened was it didn't go 100% the way that they wanted it to go. They got started, they were making progress, and then it was like one step forward and then two steps backwards. They didn't know that that's part of the growth process in bridging the gap from where they are to where they want to be. So they took their time. And this is what happened. It's like people make a plan. You know, I think about New Year's resolutions. Many of us make New Year's resolutions, and sometimes by the end of January, we've forgotten all about them. Well, I think the way that the human being is brain is wired is that once a person makes a commitment to have something different, to do something they've never done, to have something they've never had, on an unconscious level, it becomes scary. And so when Ivan and Ida started bridging the gap, when they hit a stuck place, when they hit a hurdle, in the beginning, they thought that they were failing, that they were not being successful. There's so many times that I've heard people say, I've tried everything, I've tried everything, and nothing changed. Well, the truth is that when you try something and it doesn't work, or doesn't work successfully in the beginning, you keep trying. You keep your eye on the prize. You keep your eye on the outcome. You keep your eye on the destination where you're going together. So over time, this was not overnight. Over time, Ida and Ivan got to the place where they could have the conversation and really open up with each other with emotional integrity. Actually, it took them about 90 days to get to a place that they were really comfortable with it because they were developing new habits. People talk about breaking bad habits. Coping skills, when they keep you limited, um, see, I hate to call them bad habits because coping skills, those are the things that help people to survive trauma, stress, discomfort. However, sometimes the coping skills get you what you want, and sometimes the coping skills don't. So they understood that their coping skills did not support them to have the outcomes that they want. So they practiced over and over again. They had support because sometimes they couldn't see their blind spots. And then when they made any kind of progress, they celebrated it. And so being in emotional integrity with each other became a pillar that became stronger and stronger and stronger in their relationship. So here's the other thing. Um, when they strengthened this pillar of integrity, the other five became strengthened too, because they were strengthening their commitment. They were strengthening intimacy. They were strengthening forgiveness. They were strengthening empathy. They were strengthening respect. All of that was happening at the same time. And I think that's the other thing that happens when you start working on one pillar, it affects the others as well. So I have a question. What about you? What is it like for you when your mate doesn't open up to you, when you need to have those important conversations? Actually, what is it like for you? How easy is it for you to open up? Like sometimes it's difficult to open up if you're thinking and you're based on your history that you could be ignored or put down or criticized. So, how easy is it for you to open up to your spouse or your mate um, when you need to have those heart to heart conversations? On a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the level of emotional integrity in your relationship? Emotional integrity is not just something to have a conversation about. Emotional integrity is something to have an experience. Um, what happens when you try to talk heart to heart and tell the truth, to tell your truth? Um, how easy is that for you? And what would your relationship look like and feel like if there was more emotional integrity in your relationship? Know that emotional integrity goes both ways. Because here's the thing, many times people will put the spotlight on their partner and insist that they show up in a certain way, and they ignore that they need to do it too. Um, it's just a habit that people have, and it's a habit that can be changed. So, Ivan and Ida got support to achieve the success that they achieved with this because they couldn't do it on their own. They tried to do it on their own. There were some things they were able to do. Uh, as a matter of fact, went to a they went to a seminar, and they heard about some of these concepts that I'm sharing with you. They heard them. They loved the um, they loved the information that they heard, and then they went home and tried to do it on their own, and they got stuck because they couldn't see their blind spots. They just couldn't see them. They got stuck, and then they were disappointed because they said, "This does not work for me. It's not working." They didn't know that they needed support to see what they couldn't see. They didn't know that it would be helpful for them to have support when they hit those tough spots. So when they realized that, they allowed themselves to get help. And so what I'm offering for you is if you would like support like Ivan and Ida, then I invite you to sign up for a complimentary consultation. And I can support you to take that first step, to understand what it would take to take that first step toward bridging the gap between wherever you are um, to where you want to be. Because all of us want a loving relationship. All of us want to be successful in a relationship. www.jesseandmelva.com/consultation. There's a short questionnaire to fill out. We'll have a conversation, and I will support you to understand, because it would be just the two of us, two of you and me. I'll be able to um, take a look at what's going on in your relationship and support you to begin the action plan or the next step for you to bridge the gap. So, pillar number 6, check. Next time, I will be sharing the last pillar, pillar number 7, personal and universal connection. Looking forward to it. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.